Hi, this is Pat Moorhead, and we're back for more 6/5 2023 day one action. We're talking cloud and infrastructure, and an extra added bonus. We're talking about AI, and everybody wants to know how to bring AI into their workflows, into the business. It's my pleasure to introduce our guest from Microsoft, Ashmi, GM Digital and Application Innovation. How are you doing, Ashmi?
I'm doing fantastic, Pat. Thank you so much for welcoming me today.
Yeah, it's great. We've had so many incredible people from Microsoft here at the 6/5 Summit and also on the 6/5 podcast and insiders over the last 4 years. And just so great to have you on here. And I have to tell you, we talked a little bit about this in the green room, but there's just so much excitement about AI. And it's almost as if AI never existed until now. No, it has. It's just the wave of excitement seems to be really taking off. And the theme of this year's conference is about navigating rough waters through practical innovation. And I believe, and I think everybody can agree, that the cloud has become this critical enabler of innovation, really democratizing access to all levels of compute and application development for people to do some pretty amazing things, and not just horizontally, but vertically across multiple industries. So, machine learning has been a huge driver, and AI for that matter, to be able to act as what I'd like to call a force multiplier out there. And the cloud has enabled everybody to get access here. But I get a ton of questions about how people can enable it faster, or where do they start? And now, generative AI. Oh my gosh, there's just something else I need to understand. But can we first talk about why Microsoft is focusing on AI, and how you believe that AI is shaping the way that companies are going to do business?
Yeah, absolutely, Pat. And you are so right. AI is going to and is already transforming entire industries. It's changing the way we live and work. And so that's what we're seeing. We're seeing excitement, enthusiasm, a little bit of nervousness from businesses of all sizes that
Right.
are leveraging the power of AI to create both new customer experiences and drive productivity across their business. So that's where, from a Microsoft perspective, we're really focusing on AI and believe this is truly the era of AI. I'll talk about three areas of focus for us across Microsoft Cloud that are basically our strategy for enabling AI based innovation, and where we help businesses shape their own approach. First of all, we're looking at building AI based capabilities into our Microsoft services. That is primarily to help accelerate productivity across the entire organization and helping people do the best work they do and not the grunt work. And so, for example, think of GitHub Copilot for developers. As you know, Microsoft is a company created for and by developers, and GitHub is really the leading software development platform. So, helping developers is very much a first stop for us. Microsoft introduced the concept of a copilot nearly 2 years ago with GitHub Copilot, and that's where we really wanted to look at helping companies kind of have that productivity. I think the second area is really in AI-based innovation, where companies can build into their own business applications using AI services and cloud-native platforms. So this is kind of where, when we launched Azure OpenAI in January, companies like Coca-Cola, Volvo, IKEA, they're all using that as well as DocuSign. And then last but not the least, and we can go into more details, is really building innovation on trust. Microsoft Cloud being the most trusted and secure cloud. That's been differentiation we've been working on for many years. And so we want to make the use of AI be responsible out of the box, and have that foundation of security. So those are the three sort of very quick ways that I think we can help companies shape the way they're doing business with AI.
Yeah, by the way, those are huge ways because first off, I mean, GitHub Copilot, it always takes me some time to get my brain wrapped around AI that's helping developers. And it just really is a breakthrough. And my son is a data science major. He does a tremendous amount of programming, and I asked him about, using a tool like GitHub Copilot. He didn't even know it was possible. Super exciting. And obviously, Azure OpenAI, I mean, enables the highest form of AI using, whether it's text, images, whether it's videos, trying to accelerate the pace of innovation. So there's what you see on TV, as we say. Okay, maybe it's on the internet now, which is a lot of talk about generative AI and consumer applications. And right, our Microsoft is participating in that. It's incredible the amount of interest that generative AI has created. I mean, even sitting at the dinner table, people asking who may not even like technology, they saw something that they saw. I'll call this in the consumer world, right? But the fact is, the highest order of this new type of AI is actually incredible for use inside of the enterprise. We've seen a few examples of it, but we haven't exactly seen it in the public sphere. The question I have is, what do these business need to know about leveraging their proprietary data for more precise types of outcomes?
Yeah, that's a really important point. And to your point, like we're all hearing about Chat GPT from our neighbors in various contexts. But at the same time, what we're seeing is 85% of the Fortune 100 companies are using Azure AI. And so we're really seeing enterprises across industries beginning to use AI for really practical purposes that drive their business. So I think I'll share a few examples, right? Just 4 or 5 things that we see companies driving, and I think that will help you see where they're also using their own proprietary data for these models,
Yeah.
right? Um, so first of all, one of the things companies always want to do is gain new customers, gain a competitive advantage in their own markets, and they're really using that to deliver that, right? They're using data and AI to improve that user experience, deliver unique value. I'll take the example of Airbus. Airbus uses today Azure AI solutions for aircraft anomaly detection, for pilot training, through chatbots, and they use a predictive maintenance solution. So you can see the business benefits of these that are really more related to accelerated development and innovation, maintenance activities that are optimized, pilots that are more effective, all of that using their own data and AI, right? So that's really important. Another example I'll share on that front is really around scalability and technical debt are critical, right? That's no matter whether there's AI or not. Many companies need to modernize their existing applications. Many are taking the opportunity to infuse AI into that. And one really great example that many people are probably familiar with is the National Basketball Association. And what they needed to do is really change the way the referees engage with the games. And so they developed an AI-based application that's actually award-winning in their market, called Referee Engagement and Performance System, or REPS, that helps referees manage and evaluate, collaborate, train, and kind of have the best referee decisions consistently across games. Now, again, all of that is also based on the information and data and insights that the NBA itself has. Um, Another really great one is really around talking about streamlining IT operations, automating routine tasks. That's a lot of what enterprises need to do. They want to consolidate redundant systems, and we work with Swedbank. It's a multinational bank in Sweden with 7 million plus customers, and they really moved to a cloud first approach, right? So they use this opportunity for greater scalability and flexibility, but they also used Azure AI to boost the performance of fraud detection. which is again a very practical use case we're seeing across industries. Reducing false positives to drive cost savings and improve security. Again, all of that really uses their internal kind of insights as well. So those are some really great examples of how companies are using their own insights, their own data, but also their own industry-specific contextual business needs, and bringing AI to solve those.
By the way, I love the way that you had examples that of so many different types of improvements across so many different verticals. It's probably the densest and most valuable 2 minutes I've heard about AI in a long time. So I appreciate that. Um, Now, there's the benefits of bringing it to the table, um, but big question I get is an ROI, right? You can get all the benefits, but obviously, if you're investing more than the benefits are bringing back to you, then it's not a very good business decision. And I'm curious, based on a lot of the work that you're doing with your customers, what kinds of benefits can large enterprise customers expect by adopting AI?
Yeah, this is a fundamental question, right? Especially all the enterprise customers and even the born in the cloud customers are very savvy about what's in it for the business. And initially we saw that okay, well, 85% of businesses are expecting to build applications cloud first. 90% are, their apps are planning to use AI in the next few years. So there should be really critical ROI. And Forrester just published a total economic impact report that analyzed the business and financial results of various Azure AI and ML customers. And it was fascinating. This was, really proved a lot of our hypothesis that Azure AI and ML customers are experiencing a 284% ROI over a 3-year horizon. The payback period is less than 6 months. And so these are initial numbers that are really leaving no doubt that any C-level executives, the ROI is there in adopting AI. So that's kind of what we're seeing.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting. Some companies operate a little bit more by instinct, and others need the help when does come to AI. Um, there's nothing free, and it does take a pretty big investment. But in the end, it is paying off. The great thing about the cloud is you can do it fractionally,
Yeah.
right? That's one of the biggest benefits that's inherent in the public cloud. So I know this might be hard. This is a general question, but I get it a lot. And I talk to a Fortune 500 enterprise probably every other week, maybe weekly. What advice do you have for these Fortune 500 companies who are looking to adopt AI in the cloud?
Yeah, we've been spending a lot of time understanding that, especially with some of the ROI discussion we just had and the fact that companies are wanting to adopt this, right? So there's three things I would say that are really important. Some of them may be, what you would do in any project, but is especially important when adopting a shift like AI. First of all, it's always valuable to have projects that have very clear business value, high ROI, shorter time to value, right? Just to start off with, that's something that we are seeing our customers do, and we are very flexible in that. Wherever your application is running, you can infuse AI into that with Azure AI, so you can start with that. And this is really where, either augmenting existing applications, just building a new application that is leveraging a pre-built AI model with some customization with your data. I think those are the places where I would start. Um, we're seeing a lot of customers start that by incorporating that into existing migration and modernization projects that are already being planned or executed. So kind of adding scope to that. So that's one where you have a shorter time to value, higher ROI, clear business value coming in. The second one I'd say is really looking at your industry specific use cases. And that's very important. I mentioned fraud detection. There's personalization and recommendation engines. There's a lot of examples in customer service and support. Those are some areas where customers have immediate need and immediate benefit. So that's something I would look at. And then last but not the least, you don't have to go it alone. Especially when you're working with us, your Microsoft team or Microsoft partner, uh, they can call me, can help define their AI strategy. So I think that's something I would definitely recommend, learning from your peers, your partners, etc.
One thing I really like about this advice is, and I guess this is one of the benefits of being around for a long time. This is very similar to the advice of any really tectonic shifting piece of technology, and whether it was moving from the mainframe to client server, whether it was the adoption of PC and then mobile devices, e-commerce and the web. It's very similar type of thing, and anybody who has been through even going through this mobile revolution, I think should be very comfortable in this. And I like that you spelled out the playbook for people too. And I know there's a lot of depth to this, trust me. But sometimes simplifying the conversation is the place to start, because people just get locked up. They just don't know where to go. And I think in the end, talk to your Microsoft team, talk to your Microsoft partner to get some help here. So we talked about enterprises. We talked about Fortune 500 companies, about bringing AI capabilities into their applications and their business processes. But how about startups in the AI space? What types of use cases are you seeing them build on top of Azure?
Startups are very much at the forefront of this new AI era. And in fact, they're not just building AI capabilities into business applications, they're riding the AI wave and the Gen AI wave, right, to disrupt industries. So that's like thinking about the Chat GPT impact across the world. Open AI's Chat GPT runs on Azure, right? And so that's the type of use you're seeing. We're seeing, just in terms of use cases, a lot of startups working on creating unique and personalized content, music and audio, creative design, personalized marketing, many of these areas, and they're building their AI-based apps, right? So they're not just cutting edge AI services and tools that they're using. They're leveraging these to really bring lightning fast innovation to their markets. They're using hyperscale databases. They're going cloud native as a start, right? That's where they start. So that's really what we're seeing. I'll give you an example. We think of DocuSign as a much later stage company, and they're really using an AI generated contract summary. Um, if you've read contracts, you know how exciting that
I
is.
read more. Thankfully, I read more contracts than I probably should.
Exactly. So that's where they're doing AI generated summaries of contracts, extracting key data points, allowing users to ask questions and get answers. That's amazing. We see something in Thread, and they're really helping IT technicians improve customer comms. If you can eliminate tickets in favor of conversations and using everyday applications like Microsoft Teams, that's amazing. And Thread developed this application within 2 weeks, automating entries and streamlining resourcing, etc. So that's the kind of innovation we're really seeing. In terms of creativity, I mean, there's so much you can do with creativity there. If you've heard of Typeface, they're really unlocking
Absolutely.
their the stories that their customers can tell, the unique stories that you want them to tell faster, easier, and they're using Azure and Azure OpenAI services for that seamless experience. So I feel like the use cases for Gen AI are, and AI in general, right, across the AI portfolio, they're rapidly evolving. There's a lot more development coming, and we're just beginning to scratch the surface of what's possible.
Yeah, it is so much fun that this is taking off, and you just can never plan for when something is truly going to take off. I mean, the original AI algorithms were developed in the 1960s, right? And then I think we all got excited about AI that was really improved analytics. Okay, let's just say a lot of it were if thens and things like that, and then machine learning hit, and it was like, whoa, this is now we have something. And then with generative AI, exploding the possibility that it happens even quickly, and it has to be so much fun at Microsoft to be partnering with companies like OpenAI and others. And it's one thing to partner, but also to integrate that into a full development environment and be able to leverage all these capabilities. You had some really good examples of some startups, and then even companies like DocuSign that have been around for a while, integrating very quickly these capabilities to their products. How can startups engage with Microsoft to get started with all this Azure and Azure OpenAI goodness?
Yeah, that's been a big area of focus for us. Being an ally and a partner for startups. And what we really see is startups want a trusted partner for their business needs, in addition to their technology needs, right? They're all looking to grow and disrupt their own industries and their businesses. And so, while choosing a cloud provider is a foundational requirement for them to innovate, they want a partner who can navigate the challenges with them, help them grow their business, and especially you brought up the theme of the conference and the session around economic uncertainty and kind of having those practical solutions. That's what we're really looking to do as Microsoft, regardless of the size. I'll mention a few ways. It all begins with our program called Microsoft for Startups Founders Hub. So that is a platform that brings people, knowledge, and our technology together, helping founders at every stage with their startup challenges. Um, so this is where startups work with us to get access to Azure credits, expert guidance. They get connection to mentors and advisors. Work with other startups, including OpenAI and GitHub, and they get many of these benefits from Microsoft. So that's kind of where a lot of startups start with us, and we have a unique portfolio there of partners we work with that are in the AI space, which is fantastic. Um, you may have heard we recently also introduced the Microsoft for Startups Pegasus program. So this is a program for growth state startups and really connecting to Microsoft's top customers as well, which is really important for startups at that stage. So we've really helped over 100 startups land enterprise customers, and startups selected get up to 350,000 in Azure, GitHub, LinkedIn credits, and many other benefits as well. So that's the second way where they can really take their business to the next level. And then, specifically for startups building SaaS solutions for enterprises, we've helped them grow their business with access to Microsoft's enterprise customers, and also other go-to-market tools. So this is a program called the ISV Success Program. So we see partners experiencing up to 26% revenue growth in 2022 related to their Microsoft business. So we're able to kind of provide that actual business value as well. So we're not just talking about funding application architectures. We're really looking to partner with startups all the way through their business challenges as well. And that's really where we see a lot of AI startups coming into work with us.
So I'm an industry analyst that actually admits when they didn't know something. And I did not know the breadth and depth of some of your startup programs that you're offering. And it's impressive. I'm glad more people will learn about this. And I think, I mean, there were a lot of reasons for startups to get engaged with Azure, but I think Azure OpenAI is probably the strongest a new draw that the company has had in a long time to bring in startups. I mean, um, anyways, I can't wait to see where this goes.
Yeah,
So, hey, a lot of this conversation
yeah,
around AI, and I think it's an important discussion. In fact, when I was in Redmond, I was one of the analysts who was at the original launch event. The super stealthy one
yeah.
at the Redmond headquarters, and there was a lot of talk about responsible AI, and quite frankly, it's been one of the biggest parts of the discussion around. In addition to the kind of the shock and awe about how cool this technology is, and I also know because I talk with them, is really top of mind for
Mhm.
many industry leaders, regardless of what vertical that you're in. Can you talk a little bit more about how Microsoft is enabling responsible AI?
Absolutely. That has been a major focus for us, and almost to have responsibility by design. That's what we really believe in, and really helping organizations applying AI responsibly through shared learning, resources, and also purpose-built tools and systems. We don't want to leave it to chance. We want to make it part of the flow. And so for almost 7 years, we have invested in a cross-company program to really ensure that our AI systems are responsible by design. Uh, at Build, if you manage to listen in, we announced several new products and features that will help organizations improve that accuracy, that safety, fairness, and explainability across the AI development cycle. So that's where our focus has been. A couple of things that I mentioned, the Azure AI content safety, it's available in preview. That helps developers to build safer online environments, so they can detect and assign severity scores, when you see unsafe images or text across languages. So that's a big one. The Azure AI content safety is, going to be integrated across our products, including OpenAI and Azure Machine Learning. So that's something will help users continue to evaluate the content and the prompts that they're using. And then I'll also mention the Azure Machine Learning Services Responsible AI Dashboard. So this is where users can really identify model errors, if there's any performance or fairness issues, for example, and mainly, get explanations for a wide variety of use cases, whether that's text or image classification, object detection, etc. So we really want to have companies, kind of have more and more tools to make responsible AI a norm.
Yeah, and I have been chronicling technology for a while, and there is definitely a direct correlation between the benefit of a technology and the potential risk there. And having been in and around Microsoft for over 30 years, I know how serious it takes all things like that. And quite frankly, being first doesn't always mean you're taking some gigantic risk if it's done with a lot of planning that went into it. And I've looked at architecturally where Prometheus fits in, which is an important layer. I mean, you're putting a lot of additive pieces in here to monitor this. So it is very impressive. Now, one part of AI that's a threat and an opportunity is as it relates to security.
Mhm.
I like to say, hey, we're entering the age of AI spy versus AI spy, right? The bad people, right, using AI and then protecting it, and then proactively working with AI to make a safer environment. How is Microsoft leveraging AI to help boost security?
Yeah, you're so right. I mean, along with AI, I think cybersecurity is one of the most pressing challenges of our time, right? If you think of the threat landscape, it's challenging, it's complex, it costs money. I think we have estimates that say cyber attacks cost the world $6 trillion annually, and will probably go to 10 trillion by 2025. And so it's very important to solve for that reason. So we've really looked at enabling organizations of all sizes to adopt a zero trust architecture. This is spanning clouds and client platforms, and doing that practically, reducing cost, complexity, risk. So with this era of AI, we're really looking at transforming every aspect of security, from threat detection to incident response. And if you've heard of our new innovation called Security Copilot, that really
Yeah,
gives us the ability to defend that environment at machine speed. So this is one of our Copilot products, and it runs on the hyperscale privacy compliant infrastructure. It brings together Azure and OpenAI based models. And example of using our own data brings Microsoft's comprehensive threat intelligence signals to that end-to-end security tooling. So that's something that we're really excited about. And when it comes to security, it's not just about protecting from threats, but also building applications that are secure to begin with. We've seen multiple examples where the software development lifecycle has been, a part of the picture here. And so we're really investing in new features that enable developers to implement security earlier in that cycle. right? Really find and fix security issues before the code is deployed. You want to be able to pair with tools that deploy in a trusted way to Azure. So for example, we recently announced GitHub Advanced Security for Azure DevOps. And the entire GitHub Advanced Security set of capabilities, which really is about helping developers to integrate those automated security checks into their workflows, code scanning, whether that's sensitive information in repositories, et cetera, and really combining with the Microsoft Defender family for the CISO side of the house and really providing that entire picture. So needless to say, this is extremely top of mind for us along with responsible AI.
Ashmi, this has been a great conversation. I can't believe we've covered so much ground in about 30 minutes, and I'm sure the audience is gripping on here. I mean, we've talked ROI, we've talked Fortune 500, we've talked responsible AI, we've talked security, we've talked about developers, and everything in between. So. I really want to thank you for coming onto the show and discussing, all the things that are happening with well, not all the things that are happening in AI, but really talking about a lot of innovation that's being enabled through AI and Microsoft's part and how it fits into it and how it looks at the world and how it looks at enabling developers and its end customers. It's really been an exciting time, and Microsoft has made it a lot more interesting than it was before. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Pat. Fantastic speaking with you, and I'm really excited to see how we can help businesses innovate with AI.
Absolutely, and we'd love to have you on again. We could talk about how you've been doing that. So thanks again. So this is Pat Moorhead closing out this session for the 6.5 Summit, day one, talking about one of my favorite topics, two of my favorite topics, cloud infrastructure and AI. Does that make three? I appreciate you tuning in. Stick around for more segments for day one. And don't forget, there's a day two and day three. If you can't sit there at your screen and watch every show for all 3 days, that's okay. You can go back and pick them up whenever you would like. Good morning, good afternoon, good night, wherever you are on the planet. Thanks for tuning in and take care.